Hey everybody, Thomas Joseph here. Now, when making breaded cutlets or schnitzel at home, do you end up with something that's kind of insipid on the outside and maybe overcooked and tough on the inside? Well, today I'm going to share with you the classic technique in making breaded cutlets or schnitzel, and you will be making this restaurant-worthy dish every single week. So today I'm making schnitzel with pork, and I'm using pork loin here, a very lean cut of pork. Now, classically, schnitzel is made with veal cutlets, but you can also make it with chicken as well. Any lean cut of meat will really work here for this quick cooking technique. Now, Schnitzel, or Wiener Schnitzel, it is said that it originated in Austria, and it's actually German for Viennese cutlet, Vienna being in Austria. Now, some people also say that maybe the Italians influenced the Austrians. I don't know, I've always heard that it is Austrian. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these pieces of pork loin and I'm gonna pound them out to about 1/4 of an inch thickness. Now, it's important here to pound out the cutlets so that they're thin enough to cook in the oil, but they're not too paper thin where they're going to get overcooked. I'm using my meat mallet today. You guys should have one of these in your kitchen, and you wanna make sure that you're using the flat side of the meat mallet here and gently pound out using a piece of plastic wrap over the top to about 1/4 of an inch in thickness. Now, when I am pounding cutlets out, what I like to do is I like to pound, but also kind of move the mallet off to the side, not just going straight up and down, but kind of working in a sweeping motion. And I think it helps to pound the cutlets out into a nice even layer. Now, if you didn't have a meat mallet at home, you could use a heavy bottom sauté pan, or even an empty wine bottle might work. Or if you have a nice wooden rolling pin, you could also use that here as well. So these look good, guys. Again, what you're really looking for is something that's not paper thin. We don't want to be able to see through this. We don't want it really, really thin. We're looking for about 1/4 of an inch in thickness. And this is the trick here in making sure that your cutlets are really tender in the end and have that wonderful crisp coating on the outside. So I'm going to repeat the process with the 2 other pieces of pork that I have. And then we're going to move on to the breading portion, which is just as important. So now for the standard breading procedure. Now I have flour, eggs, and breadcrumbs. And to each of these, I'm going to add salt and pepper. You need to season each layer with salt and pepper in order to get a really flavorful cutlet in the end. So I've already seasoned my flour. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt to the eggs and some salt to the panko breadcrumbs, which I'm using here today. Now, panko breadcrumbs, I'm taking a little bit of creative liberties here. Panko breadcrumbs are actually Japanese breadcrumbs, and they're nice and light and fluffy. You could certainly substitute this with fresh breadcrumbs, and then also some pepper. So salt and pepper, these are the base seasonings that you can add here. Now, one thing that I like to do that's really not typical or classic, but I like to use a little bit of lemon zest and maybe a little bit of thyme leaves in with the breadcrumbs, and that will really help to add some flavor. So just mix it up with your hands. I'm gonna whisk the eggs with the salt and pepper, and then I'm ready to start the breading process. Over here, I have a really large skillet with about 1/4 of an inch of neutral high temperature oil, like a safflower oil or grapeseed oil, heating over medium heat. Now, you don't need to use too much oil when you're making schnitzel or breaded cutlets. You really only need a small amount, and this is the cooking technique called shallow frying, where the items, in this case the cutlets, are not fully submerged in the oil. We're not deep frying here at all. First up, we need flour. Now, flour is important in the breading procedure because what it does is it helps to dry out the chicken cutlet, the pork cutlet, whatever you're using, so that the eggs have something to adhere to. So give it a light kind of dusting in this flour. You want to make sure that you knock off any excess flour because you don't want any gummy bits. So shake the cutlet. You might make a little bit of a mess here, but that's totally okay. And then it goes right into your egg mixture. Now, this is the point where I like to use a fork to help turn the cutlets, and I'm going right now into the panko breadcrumbs. And here you can push the cutlet down into the panko so that it really allows the breadcrumbs to adhere to the cutlet. And then give your bowl a little shake. You can use your hands here to help kind of press the panko into the cutlets, and you should have a perfectly breaded pork cutlet. Now you can repeat the process with the remaining cutlets that you have. And a good thing about breading, you guys, is you could do this in advance. This is something that you could do if you're having a dinner party, or even if you're just making dinner for your family. You can do this an hour or two in advance. The one thing you never want to do in advance is this process right here, just the dredging. And the reason why is because the flour will start to absorb all of the moisture from the meat and it will turn into this gummy layer. So if you're making chicken piccata or something that doesn't have the breadcrumbs or the egg, don't do this step in advance. This isn't something you can do, but if you're fully breading, you can certainly do that in advance. It actually creates a nice crust because it allows it to sit and set up. So right into the eggs, guys. And then last but not least, into the panko. So I have a large skillet here. This is a 14-inch big skillet with 1/4 inch of neutral oil. And my oil temperature needs to be at about 350 degrees. Now I'm using one of these handy dandy thermometers here, and this seems to be climbing up nicely. There we go, it's at 351 degrees. And another way that you can test the oil to see if it's hot enough is to take a little bit of those breadcrumbs and just sprinkle them into the oil, and they should sizzle up immediately. If they sink down to the bottom and there are no bubbles, you don't see anything bubbling up, you know that your oil is not ready. So I'm going to add in my cutlets. Now you want to be careful here, and the reason why I'm using such a big pan is because I don't want to overcrowd the pan. If you overcrowd the pan, what you're going to do is the oil temperature is going to drop drastically. You're not going to get a nice brown color on your cutlets, and the cutlet on the inside is going to become overcooked. So do this in batches, you guys. I think I'm going to do 2 at a time. So these are gonna take about 1 to 2 minutes on each side, and you wanna monitor the temperature of the oil. So if you have one of those deep fat frying thermometers or candy thermometers, they work really well here. Or, you can use your digital thermometer like I'm using. The oil has dipped down, so I'm gonna turn the heat up here, you guys, because I really want to increase the heat back up to 350 degrees. So it's been 2 minutes, and you can see the breading around the outside of the cutlet is turning a nice golden brown color, and that's really when you know you can flip these guys over. So gently flip them over. Look at how beautiful golden brown and even that is, and that's really what you're looking for. And now these cutlets have to cook on this side for about 1 to 2 minutes more until they're nice and golden brown. So our cutlets are nice and brown. You can see they brown nicely on the underside, and now I'm gonna transfer them to a wire rack set over a rimmed baking sheet. And you can keep these cutlets warm in a 200-degree oven, a very low oven, while you finish the process here with the remaining cutlets. So final 2 minutes are over. These look beautiful onto the wire rack here. So I'm gonna take this hot oil and I'm going to pour it off. Make sure you're using a heat-resistant bowl here, you guys. And then take some paper towel pieces and just wipe out all of those brown bits in the pan. And to finish off this schnitzel, I'm going to just kind of bathe it in a little bit of butter, just to kind of gild the lily here and almost create a delicious sauce and add a little bit more flavor to the cutlets. I have 4 tablespoons of butter here to my pan, right to the same pan, you guys. Melt this down. And now you can really complement these cutlets with anything you'd like. A nice crisp green salad would be fantastic. You could serve this with some pasta, that would also be delicious. If you really wanted to go in that German, Austrian world there, you could do some spätzle or some, maybe some egg noodles would be really great. Now once your butter is melted, you can add the cutlets to the pan. And this really helps just to kind of finish them off. It gives them a nice glistening appearance. And again, it adds a good amount of flavor. And it's really just a few seconds in this butter. You can use a spoon to kind of base the top of them. So these look and smell delicious. Now I have a nice platter here. You can put these right on the plate, you guys. Have some lemon wedges cut. I'm gonna drizzle with just the extra bit of butter because I think this is gonna be really delicious. A light sprinkling of salt over the top. Some parsley leaves just for some color and also for a fresh bite. And then garnish with a few lemons, and there you go, guys. You have a wonderful, crisp on the outside, moist and tender cutlet on the inside. Schnitzel 101. I encourage you guys to try making this at home, and as always, reach out to us using the hashtag Kitchen Conundrums. We love to see what you're making, and we'd love to know what questions you have so we can answer them here. Enjoy, guys. And as always, guys, click like and subscribe.